Hello and welcome back to another movie review, and I'm wearing red. I don't think I've ever worn the color red on my channel before. I don't even remember the last time I wore red in general. Okay, there was that hoodie thing in Star Wars, but that's more of a maroon. This is like bright red, and I don't usually wear red, but I felt like pulling out some red to kind of coordinate with Shazam. Is there a point to this? No, not really. But, as you see, and as I've just said, today I am reviewing Shazam! We have another superhero movie, and you know what that means. It means the number of dislikes on my videos goes up, and nasty hate comments increases. Yahoo! Yeah, I've already done the Twitter arguments with people who, oh good god. Just let people like and dislike whatever they want. They're just movies. It does not have to be that big. Although, if I'm honest, I kind of don't ever want to hear the word Shazam ever again. And it has nothing to do with the movie. Yeah, I'm over the name Shazam, and that's all my brother's fault. I went to see the movie with him. I saw the movie 9 days ago, so I'm really way behind on posting this review. But while we were in the movie and we were watching it, every few minutes my brother just turns to me and goes, Shazam! 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 Through the entire movie. If you're watching this, Tim, thanks a lot. But yeah, so kinda overhearing the word Shazam. But anyway, that leads me to what we are starting off this video with. We are starting with Ashley's alcoholic tip of the day. I have not done an alcoholic tip of the day in ages. I don't even remember when the last one was. It might have been Proud Mary. I'm not sure. But I felt this was the perfect time to bring it back, and what better way? So, my alcoholic tip of the day, assuming you are of legal age, is if you finally get the chance to watch this at home, or you are watching this in a cinema where they serve alcohol, take a shot every time you hear someone say Shazam. You will be drunk off your ass. I guarantee you that. So, that's my alcoholic tip of the day. Now that that's done, let's do the review. Shazam is a 2019 American superhero film based on the DC Comics character of the same name, directed by David F. Sandberg, with a screenplay by Henry Gayden from a story by Gayden and Darren Lemke. It is the 7th installment in the DC Extended Universe. The film follows Billy Baston, a teenage boy who can transform into an adult superhero. Shazam was a film I was quite excited to see, as I found the trailers to be highly entertaining, but having now seen it, I find myself with mixed feelings. For starters, I found Shazam to be light and enjoyable family movie. Due to the monsters in it, I might not consider taking children under the age of 10 to see it, but I still think it's a solid family film, and for the most part is very kid-friendly. After all, the main hero is a child, technically. I found its humour and themes to fall into the pro category, as they were not only entertaining, but gave the film good direction, and for the most part were executed quite well. Director David F. Sandberg deserves a great deal of praise. This is only his 3rd feature-length film, and he's already doing a superhero movie. Sandberg first got my attention when he directed Lights Out, which was not only his first feature-length film, but also adapted from his short film of the same name. It was easy to see that Sandberg is talented and definitely has a flair for horror, which as a horror fan I greatly appreciate. Since then, he directed Annabelle Creation, the sequel to Annabelle, and while it wasn't great, I commended his attempts to save a sinking ship. And while it was an improvement on the first film, it was still the equivalent of trying to steer the Titanic away from an iceberg up ahead, and we all know how that ended up. Now we have him doing a superhero movie which is vastly different to horror, and yet I'd say he did a terrific job. So overall, I found this film to be a testament to his skills as a director, and just further encourages me to see what else he does in the future. The humour and levity of the film are well done and not too over the top. There are the occasional moments that don't land, but the ones that do far outweigh them. I think it's good that the writers didn't try to take the comedy too far, as it would have meant any of the more serious parts of the story would have been drowned out, and that would have been a shame, as I think the more serious elements were the best parts. Shazam is an origin story that significantly differs from any other film in the DCEU. Humor aside, it sees a child becoming a hero, not an adult, and that changes a lot. How does a child respond to such a change? And I think they depicted the answer to that question fairly accurately. On top of that, you feel a great deal of sympathy for our hero. Not only does he come from a complicated background and is dealing with issues of rejection and acceptance, but he's also a child being asked to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that's a lot to ask a person, especially when that person is a child. The film has a great theme about family and what a family is and what that means. I think it's great to see a movie depict a very genuine blended family, one that's built on love and trust and not about blood. I found these moments quite sweet and touching, but at times I felt they were a bit rushed and concluded too quickly in terms of Billy, played by Asher Angel, warming up to his new family. I also at times found them a bit off balance with the superhero part of the story and felt they could have been smoothed out a bit more. I nevertheless found Billy to be a very relatable character, especially his story about searching for his mother and ultimately being rejected by her. As someone who has been rejected by a parent, I know all too well what that feels like, so that aspect of the story hit home for me, and watching the character experience that was emotional, and it was hard not to empathize with him. Though I must admit, Billy overcame his feelings of rejection ridiculously fast, and that I didn't like. I've had 24 years to come to terms with my rejection, and it is still very raw and painful for me. So for him to be okay with it in a minute did not sit well with me. I think the way the ending became a group effort and we ended up with multiple Shazams was cute, and I'm not sure why, but it made me feel good seeing this family team of new superheroes, but at the same time it didn't work for me. Shazam spent days or weeks trying to learn to use his powers, and his foster siblings figured it out in just seconds. It works for the sake of wanting everyone fighting the bad guys at the same time, but logically it doesn't make sense. I'm also not entirely sure how Billy translated what Shazam said to him into sharing his powers with his siblings. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but it just felt a little too convenient for me. When it comes to our villain, while I'm a fan of Mark Strong, I have to say this is yet another villain fail for the DCEU. I don't know why, but they seem incapable of writing villains well. They were almost going in an interesting direction by having Strong's character Thaddeus have a similar beginning to Billy, both dealing with rejection from a parental figure, but both still very different. Billy grew up not believing he was rejected. Thaddeus, however, grew up being verbally and emotionally abused by his father and his brother, and that warped him significantly. Shazam declaring he was not the hero he was after meant Thaddeus being rejected by yet another person, so with all that, he was doomed to go down a path of evil. Add to that some evil monsters who were fueling those emotions, and you have a recipe for disaster. I wish they had played to that more, because I think that could have been far more powerful, showing what the adverse effects are of repeated abuse and rejection, what happens when a child is not part of a nurturing environment. I'm usually a sucker for anything related to the 7 deadly sins, and when I first heard those words in this film, I was sold. But then as the story played out, I found it to be underwhelming and to a degree pointless. Aside from the demon's appearance, there was nothing in their characteristics that made it clear which demon represented which sin. Aside from making one of them fat, which meant going for the cheap version of what gluttony is, and for me that was lazy. Ha! Sloth. I found the demon's appearance to not mesh well with the overall look of the film. They felt out of place, and aside from one scene, they never really did anything. It felt no different to watching the ghost floating around town in Ghostbusters. They didn't have a menacing presence and just came off as weak background characters with nothing to offer. Thaddeus sadly was given nearly every villain trope in the book, and I couldn't stop myself from continually rolling my eyes. Bald? Check. Facial scar? Check. Sunglasses on and off for dramatic effect even in non-dramatic scenes? Check. Missing eye? Check. Overuse of black leather? Check. I don't know what it is with the DC world and bald villains. The funny thing is that here is Mark Strong playing a bald villain, and his father is played by John Glover, who played the father of bald villain Lex Luthor in the Smallville series. He also had a small appearance in Batman and Robin, so safe to say he's no stranger to DC. Frankly, his character in this film and that series are near identical. Ultimately, we have 7 demon monsters who didn't do much of anything to make me go, oh yeah, they're evil, and Thaddeus spends the majority of his time taking his sunglasses on and off and flying around, again achieving virtually nothing. While I think Zachary Levi is an excellent Shazam, and I love that he was able to embody the personalities of a teenager turned adult superhero, but when it comes to actually being a superhero, I think Shazam is on the underwhelming side. Shazam spends a great deal of the film showing off and getting attention, which lines up with the fact he's a child who is not familiar with responsibilities, but when it comes to him consciously stepping into the role of hero, he still did virtually nothing aside from make more superheroes who kind of were more proactive. My brother and I watched him constantly run away, or more accurately, fly away from the fight. He very rarely took Thaddeus on directly, he rarely used his super strength with him, and not once did he attempt to zap him with lightning, not even to defend himself. We just kept asking ourselves, why has he not once zapped this guy even to just get away? So we had a villain who did nothing, monsters that did one thing which was mostly kept off screen because this is a PG film, and a superhero who also kind of did nothing. I don't believe it being PG is to blame, more could have been done, but it was a lot of flashy stuff made to look like things were happening, but nothing actually was. So while a lot of the elements of this film were a fail, I also think many others were a success, hence this being a mixed bag for me. I think Levi is really funny and charming, and he did have some heartfelt moments, so I did enjoy him and his performance. I enjoyed the themes and messages of the film, although I wish they were touched on more. I think this film has a fun number of movie references, not just to the DCEU, but other films such as Big, with the obvious one being young boy turned adult, and the other being the giant piano in the department store. I also love the soundtrack. I think there were some great song choices. My brother and I were singing along to Queen's Don't Stop Me Now when it was playing, so there were a lot of enjoyable moments, and I did think it's a fun film. I just think some visuals were poorly done, mostly when it comes to flight, but the biggest issue was the film's villain, who was 100% fail for me. But as I said, still an enjoyable movie and a good addition to the DCEU. And that's my review done. I'm so tired. I haven't actually slept. Oh my god, I need sleep. So, anyway, I can't believe that I should have done this video 9 days ago. I'm such a slacker. But, anyway, bring on the dislikes, bring on the nasty comments. Nasty comments don't scare me. I have the power of the delete button. Ha 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 ha! But, no, that aside, if you have anything to say about the film, I welcome conversation. I love chit-chat, difference of opinions, you know, when they're done politely. So, comment down below, tell me what you thought about Shazam, and yeah, that's about it. So, until next time, toodaloo.